People came to their house when babies would not stop crying, when men returned from the forest speaking in voices not their own, when women dreamed the same dream 3 nights in a row. Madeline learned herbs, prayers, warnings, protection marks. She learned that spirits were not always evil, but they were always hungry. Her grandmother taught her the first rule of power: never give the dead more attention than the living. The second rule: never make promises near graves. The third: if something dead calls your name in a voice you love, do not answer. But Madeline was a child, and children are curious. At 13, she woke screaming after seeing a family burn alive in a house fire.
Like and subscribe.
2 nights later, it happened. After that, villagers avoided her. Some called her blessed. Others called her cursed. Madeline eventually learned the truth. The spirits were showing her fractures in fate, deaths waiting to happen. Sometimes, if she acted quickly enough, she could change them. Sometimes, she could not. The ones she failed to save followed her longest. In 1934, Madeline traveled to New Orleans. The moment she stepped into the French Quarter, she nearly collapsed. Spirits were everywhere. Women in old dresses watching from balconies. Children crouched in alleys. Men with rope burns around their necks standing near taverns. Sailors dripping river water onto sidewalks. New Orleans was not haunted. It was crowded. But one spirit terrified her more than all the others: Jean. He stood near an old cemetery, tall and thin, his neck broken, mud dripping from his skin. When he spoke, every nearby flame went out. "You carry her blood," he said. Madeline ran, but Jean followed her for 3 nights. He appeared in mirrors, in rainwater, in dark windows after midnight, not attacking, watching, studying. On the 4th night, an old keeper named Miriam found Madeline hiding in a church basement. Miriam told her the truth. New Orleans sat on a spiritual wound. Too much death, too much suffering, too many unfinished souls. If left unchecked, the dead would overwhelm the living. That was why there always had to be a keeper. One shop, one doorway, one candle burning after midnight. Madeline did not choose the duty. The duty chose her. Miriam trained her for years. The rules were strict. The shop must never fully close. A candle must always burn after midnight. No mirrors may face each other. Never read cards after 3 a.m. Never open the black book during a storm. And above all, the keeper must never leave New Orleans permanently unless another takes her place. Madeline learned to bind spirits in mirrors, to read memories from objects, to trace bloodlines through drops of blood, to hide people from curses using red thread, salt, ash, and prayer. But her gift cost her. Every vision aged her. Every dream walk weakened her. Every spirit she bound left something cold behind her ribs. Then, in 1968, Madeline broke the most dangerous rule. She fell in love. His name was Gabriel Rousseau, a trumpet player with kind eyes and a laugh that made her feel young. For the first time, Madeline wanted a normal life. No candles, no spirits, no graves, no Jean. They planned to leave New Orleans together. The night before they were supposed to go, Madeline had a vision. Gabriel drowning, mud filling his mouth, Jean standing behind him. She tried to stop it, but some visions tied to the dead were harder to change. Gabriel disappeared that night. His body was found 3 days later near the swamp, mouth packed with grave dirt. That was when Madeline understood. Jean had never truly been sleeping. Even buried, pieces of him moved beneath the city like rot beneath floorboards. And Jean did not want the keepers to leave, because they were the only ones who could stop him. After Gabriel's death, Madeline reopened the shop. She never tried to leave again. People believed she stayed because of tradition, but the truth was uglier. She stayed because she was afraid of what would happen if she didn't. That night, after hearing Madeline's story, Elijah should have left the book alone. He did not. The ritual was hidden near the back. The chant, the fasting instructions, the warning, the promise that Jean could return physically for 36 hours. "Yo," Elijah whispered, "we gotta show the others this." Renee hesitated. At the bottom of the page, written in faded ink, was one final sentence. Every return requires a soul. But Elijah had already stopped reading. The ritual took place deep in the swamps on May 23rd. 6 friends sat in a circle beneath dead cypress trees near a forgotten place locals called Terre Noire Bend. No food, no sleep. 36 hours awake. Their bodies weak enough for spirits to pass through. Candles surrounded them. Devin set up his camcorder on a rotten stump. "This is either going to be legendary," Malik said, "or stupid as hell." "Probably both," Lamar said. Renee looked uneasy. "Maybe we shouldn't."
And subscribe.
Elijah grinned. "Come on, it's just words." Madeline's warning came back to Renee. Never make promises near graves. But she said nothing. They joined hands. The swamp around them smelled like mud and old water. Then they chanted. Once, twice, 6 times. As the final words left their mouths, every insect in the swamp stopped making noise. The silence felt wrong, ancient. Then Devin's camcorder began recording static by itself. A shape moved between the trees. Tall, thin, watching. Lamar stood immediately. "Y'all saw that?" Nobody answered, because all 6 had seen it. The nightmares began the next night. Renee dreamed of coffins opening beneath her bed. Andre heard chains dragging across his ceiling every night at exactly 12:20 a.m. Malik woke screaming after seeing a man with a broken neck standing beside his mirror. Lamar found muddy footprints leading through his apartment each morning. Devin's camcorder began showing things that were not there during filming. Faces in windows, shadowy figures. A tall man standing behind the group whenever they watched playback. Then came the first full moon. Malik died on his way home. His body was found near the river beneath St. Mercy Bridge. Every bone twisted backward, his mouth packed with grave dirt. Carved across his chest were the words, "The land remembers." The surviving friends rushed to Madeline's shop. She listened silently, then closed her eyes. "You opened the gate," she whispered. "Your friend is dead because of it." Lamar's voice broke. "What does he want?" Madeline looked toward the candles. "Dumont blood." Andre frowned. "We're not Dumonts." "No," Madeline said, "but every 36 hours, if Jean cannot find a soul from the Dumont bloodline, he will feed from one of yours." "Until what?" Devin asked. Madeline's face hardened. "Until he finishes his promise." She led them downstairs beneath the shop into a hidden chamber filled with bones, candles, old books, and Haitian vaves painted across the floor. There she performed a protection ritual. Salt, ash, black candles, blood, prayers spoken in Creole. She tied red strings around each of their wrists. "This will hide you temporarily." "Temporarily?" Devin asked. Madeline looked terrified. "It means he will still smell your fear." The next death came 2 nights later. Elijah disappeared during a thunderstorm. They found him at sunrise hanging upside down from an oak tree in the swamp. Still alive, barely. His eyes were swollen black. His body was covered in cuts. "He spoke to me," Elijah whispered. Renee dropped beside him. "Who?" Elijah trembled violently. "Jean." His mouth filled with blood. "He said, the bloodline almost ends." Then Elijah screamed, not in pain, in terror, because standing behind Renee was Jean. His neck bent sideways. His eyes glowed pale white. Mud dripped from his skin. The smell of decay flooded the swamp. Then he vanished. By the time they looked back at Elijah, he was dead. Madeline used blood reading to find the remaining Dumont descendant, a little girl named Isabelle Laurent, 8 years old. Her mother, Celeste, had briefly loved a man named Richard Dumont years earlier. Richard died before Isabelle was born. Celeste never married him. Isabelle never took the Dumont name. That was why Jean had not found her yet. They rushed to Celeste's house near the fictional fishing town of Gree Mercy, where the bayou met the Gulf and every home stood on stilts. Celeste nearly slammed the door in their faces until Madeline showed her the family records. Then the newspaper clippings. Then the symbol carved into Malik's chest. Celeste went pale. "You telling me some ghost is hunting my daughter?" Madeline shook her head. "No," she whispered. "I'm telling you a curse is." The reverse ritual required 3 things: the surviving members of the original circle, the final blood descendant, and Jean's tomb restored above ground. Only then could the curse be undone. But Jean would never allow it willingly. Over the next 2 nights, he attacked relentlessly. Lights exploded whenever they gathered. Whispers filled every room. Renee began coughing up muddy water. Lamar's skin turned gray and cold. Devin heard voices begging him to join the dead. Andre saw Claire Dumont standing at the foot of his bed, weeping blood. Every night, Jean appeared closer, watching, smiling, waiting. The search for the tomb led them to St. Leroux Cemetery, an abandoned burial ground swallowed by swamp water after the Great Flood. The place felt wrong immediately. Crooked crosses jutted from the mud like broken teeth. Above-ground tombs leaned sideways beneath hanging moss. The air smelled like wet stone and opened graves. Somewhere beneath the flooded earth.
Like and subscribe.
Jean waited. They found the buried tomb just before midnight. The stone lid was cracked. Scratches covered the inside walls, as if something had clawed its way out. Then the temperature dropped violently. Jean appeared behind them, this time fully solid. The smell nearly made Lamar vomit. Rotting flesh, wet earth, blood. Jean's voice sounded like dozens speaking at once. "The bloodline ends tonight." The swamp erupted. Trees shook. Water churned. Ghostly figures rose from the mud, screaming without sound. Madeline began chanting while Lamar and Andre dug frantically to raise the tomb. Jean attacked. Devin was lifted into the air by unseen hands and slammed against stone. Lamar's protection string burst into flames. Renee screamed as shadowy hands grabbed her ankles beneath the water. Still, Madeline chanted. Then Isabelle stepped forward, trembling. "You loved Claire," the little girl whispered.
Jean froze. She loved you too. For the first time, the rage faded slightly from his face. Madeline screamed for them to begin the reversal chant. Together they formed a circle around the restored tomb, holding hands, candles flickering wildly. Jean roared as shadows swarmed around them, trying to break the circle. But they kept chanting, again, again, again. The swamp screamed with voices of the dead. Jean lunged toward Isabel and stopped. Claire's necklace hung around Isabel's neck. Madeline had placed it there moments earlier. Jean stared at it, then lowered his head. The spirits around him began pulling backward into darkness. Mud cracked beneath his feet. The air shook violently. Madeline felt something shift, something terrifying. The next keeper had appeared. Not Lamar, not Andre, not Renee. Isabel. Because during the final ritual, the little girl saw Claire standing beside Jean. No one else did. And just before Jean vanished, he looked directly at Isabel and whispered, "You hear them too." Then his body collapsed into ash. The swamp fell silent. No wind, no whispers, nothing. The curse was over. Or so they wanted to believe. Weeks later, New Orleans returned to normal, or as normal as New Orleans could ever be. Malik, Elijah, and Devin were buried above ground. Renee kept working at the diner. Lamar transferred colleges closer to home. Andre never fully recovered from what he saw in the swamp. Neither did Celeste, or Isabel. Madeline disappeared shortly afterward, leaving the shop abandoned. But sometimes tourists still claim they see candlelight flickering inside late at night. And every May 23rd, at exactly 12:20 a.m., people near the swamps outside New Orleans swear they hear distant voices chanting beneath the trees. "We gather here holding hands." And if a child happens to hear those voices clearly, Madeline once warned, it means the land has chosen them next.
Like and subscribe.